Hello, this is Margarita Monet from Edge of Paradise, and you are listening to the Metal Pit Podcast.
Welcome to the Metal Pit Podcast, where we delve deep into the albums and bands that shaped metal. Please visit us on our website, The Metal Pit, at themetalpit.org, where you can find album reviews, interviews, and live show reviews and photos. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Metal Pit. And for some video interviews and video shorts and audio versions of this podcast, you can visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com at the Metal Pit 666. And if you want to email the podcast to complain about my guests or me, you can email us podcast at themetalpit.org. I am your host, Blake, and I am the president of the Metal Pit. I'll call it that. And my guests today are two of my writers. I have Jim, who's from Nova Scotia, Canada. How are you, Jim?
Fantastic. Glad to be here. This is awesome.
And I have Georgina from New York City, who hasn't been on since episode 5. How are you, Georgina?
I'm doing very well, Blake. Thank you so much for having me again. It's wonderful to be here. I missed you all.
Well, thank you. Now, today is a special day because, of course, it's Georgina's 29th birthday.
Wow. Thank you for these well wishes. Thank you so much, Blake.
So, yeah.
Blake,
so happy birthday.
can we sing?
Yeah, Jim's going to sing, he said.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh my goodness, you're making me blush.
To you. Happy
Oh my God.
birthday, dear Georgina. Happy birthday to you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Thank you so much. I've got a smile for the ear, everybody. Thank you so much.
I didn't think you were going to sing. That's good. Okay.
Thank you.
I only know one verse.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's about it. Okay. Anyway, when
Thanks,
I started this podcast, Georgina was on the first few with me. Anyway, I know I just said she has been on since episode 5. This is episode 33, so it's been a while. And Jim's been on too. I think Jim's been on 3 or 4 in a row, I think. Yeah. So that's good. He's getting to be a veteran. Okay. Oh, and wait. Okay. So now today we're going to talk about Judas Priest, as we haven't done a Judas Priest episode yet. And of course, if you don't know, they're an English heavy metal band, new wave of British heavy metal thing. They were formed in Birmingham, England in 1969. They have sold over 50 million albums. 1980 album British Steel was kind of when they kind of broke through, maybe more, not so much in North America. It might be the one we're going to talk about, which is Screaming for Vengeance. But first, I wanted to just say, of course, Rob Halford, who we all know, of course, has been on, I wrote it somewhere else, and now I can't find it. Okay, well, anyway, he left the band in 1992, and he did 4 solo albums under his band name Halford, and he also had a couple side projects with Fight and 2. And when he left Priest, Tim Ripper Owens took over, and he did 2 studio albums with Judas Priest, which I don't even know if I remember. I don't remember the last time I listened to those. And let's see, the drummer Dave Holland was a drummer, and he joined in 1979, and he was a drummer for 10 years. Then he left the band and was replaced by Scott Travis, who is still a drummer today. And let's see, bass player Ian Hill and one of the guitarists, Glenn Tipton, have been on every album. And the other guitarist, KK Downing, left in 2011, replaced by Richie Faulkner, who is still in the band. And I think Andy Sneap joined in 2018 because sometimes Glenn Tipton couldn't, because he had some health issues or something, so he couldn't perform or something live, I think it is. Okay, they released 18 studio albums. I wanted to ask you guys something before I get to talking about Screaming for Vengeance a little more. Is Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, they're similar just because, they both have the standout lead singer. They're both twin guitar things. They're both from England, and it's both new wave of British heavy metal. But to me, they don't sound similar at all. What do you guys think?
No, they don't sound similar.
Okay, I was just making sure it wasn't just me that thought that.
No, it's not just you. No, that's the reality.
Because I mean, I discovered Iron Maiden before Judas Priest, even though Judas Priest was out first, but Iron Maiden is what got me into heavy metal. So, and I might as well ask that right now too. Then, so we're gonna talk about Scream of Vengeance. But when did both of you start listening to Judas Priest? Like, what album? Do you remember what album it was you listened to first, Georgina?
I'll be honest with you, it was this one for me. And I remember I heard this in my first ever boyfriend's, puppy love, in his basement at his mom's house. And I was like, hey, this sounds really cool. And that was my first like exposure to this. When I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And I was like, and I took a look at the album cover and I was like, oh, these colors, and I was like, oh, maybe check this out. But that was the first time I was ever like exposed to the metal god.
So would it be that year though, 1982? Then
Yes,
okay.
yes. It would be the same year. Yeah.
And
I
how
was
about
just a
you?
kid.
How about you, Jim? When did you discover?
Well, a bit of an interesting story. I've brought this up before, but I picked up. Dating myself now, so I would have been buying at a flea market back in 1980 a big pile of albums, and I was buying actually a disco album, their Saturday Night Fever, and in one of the albums was missing because it was a double album. In the second album was Judas Priest Sin After Sin. So I got it home, started listening to, I realized it wasn't the other album. So, and then just, it blew my mind. So that, from then on, I was into Judas Priest, but I have to admit this album I picked up in 1982 from Columbia House is one of my 10 for a penny pick. And my mother split it between me, my sister, and her. And I got 3 picks, and I think I got a Def Leppard one. I got, believe it or not, Platinum Blonde, Standing in the Dark, I think it was, and I got this. So, but I mean, this awesome album. I love this album, and like Georgina said, this would be. I mean, I knew Judas Priest from Sin After Sin is one of my favorite albums of all time, mainly because it was my first real heavy metal album, kind of mistakenly, but this was one of the first ones that I kind of sunk my teeth into for sure.
Okay, now I'm not 29. I'm a little bit older than 29. So it's even hard for me to remember, but I kind of think my first listen of Judas Priest was the song Green Manalishi, their version of Fleetwood Mac's Green Manalishi with a 2-pronged crown, which I think was on a compilation like cassette that I had or something about guitar thing or something, but I can't find it, so I don't have it anymore. But I think that's when I first heard Judas Priest. But as for an album, I'm pretty sure this album is the first album I heard, because as I said, Iron Maiden is how I got into heavy metal, and it was The Number of the Beast, which was 1982, the same year as this one. So I'm sure after I heard Iron Maiden, then I would buy magazines or whatever and hear, oh, there's this other group from England, Judas Priest. So then I probably went out and started buying their albums. But I'm a little vague on if I did go out and buy Screaming for Vengeance or if maybe British Steel was like, I can't remember. I don't have it written down what month Screaming for Vengeance came out. Like if it came out after Number of the Beast or before or whatever. So I can't really say all that stuff. Anyway, so the album is I think I already mentioned this, their 8th studio album. Oh, it's released in July 82. I do have it here on Columbia Records. And this was considered the band's commercial breakthrough. And of course, it has a kind of a popular song with You've Got Another Thing Coming. And of course, they play that song many, many times live, which I will mention later. So we're going to start talking about the album. Now, the first song is just a little intro. I don't think we need to talk about the Hellion. It's like 30 seconds. It's just an intro to The Electric Eye. So, Jim, what do you think of The Electric Eye?
Oh, well, I mean, you can't mention The Electric Eye without the Hellion. So I'm going to go backwards.
Right.
I know it's only such a short song and an intro, but I only ever listened to it with the Hellion. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember thinking, is this part of the song? What is this? Because there wasn't very, now it seems like a lot of bands are really pushing like a smaller or lighter intro to bring into their album. Even just under a minute. I find they're doing it more and more often. And back then, it wasn't. I don't think it was a normal occurrence. But I mean, it's awesome. And the Electric Eye. I mean, you're looking at a homage to the book, 1984 by George Orwell. I mean, all about the camera that's watching everybody, that's watching society. And I think it's definitely a shot at like a more so of a modern surveillance state. But I mean, the song is phenomenal. It is probably one of my top Judas Priest song. On this, it's one of my favorites. And I mean, it's just that guitar riff. It's probably one of the most recognizable in metal, and I mean, I just absolutely love it. And what's neat is I love the cover by Halloween that they did. I believe it was in 1996 on the Time of the Oath album. They added a cover, and I think it was on the expanded edition as some bonus material. But if you listen to it, they do a really good job of it. And I mean, this whole album. I mean, it really shot into North America and got Judas Priest into that more commercial North America market. Probably a little bit on British Steel, but this one really solidified it. And I mean, I believe this song was the first single, and I think it reached 38 on the USA Billboard's charts. But I mean, I absolutely love this song.
Georgina.
All right. Well, here, can I just say one thing? Like the minute I hear Hellion and the first track, I think of the text from the back of the album cover, right? From an unknown land and through distant skies came a winged warrior. Nothing remained sacred. No one was safe from the Hellion, and it uttered its battle cry, screaming for vengeance. Now that's poetry to me. And the Hellion and Electric Eye, I mean, there's no better way to start off a record. This song inspired lots of boys and even girls, right, to pick up the guitar. As soon as that Hellion starts, you know that you're in for something really, really special. And once it transitions into the classic Electric Eye, you know that you're about to experience one of the most badass records of the early 80s. So that's what I think right there.
Well, I know one thing that bothers me is when I when I have a Spotify playlist playing and the Hellion plays, and then I think the Electric Eye's coming on next, and it's not because I have it on shuffle. But anyway, that's the difference between nowadays and back in the 80s when we used to have to listen to a record. Anyway, this song has, I don't know if Georgina, you even know this, but I've been checking out a website called setlist.fm where they have concert listings of how many times they've played songs. I'm not positive it's 100% correct, but it's a good guide, I guess. And so the Hellions, or no, not the Hellion, the Electric Eye, apparently has been played 1,120 times. It's the 7th most played Judas Priest song live, according to that website. So that's just, I'm not going to say every song about that, but of course, we all know what song will be played the most on this album. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have anything to add. It is one of my favorite songs on the album as well. And they start a lot of their concerts with this song. And I like Glenn Tipton's guitar solo, of course. And there's a bunch of solos on this album. And yeah, it's like Jim said, I guess it's supposedly about satellites in the sky spying on us and watching us, which of course they still do, but now it's on their phones. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, then we go on to Riding on the Wind. And I'll let Georgina start. Riding on the Wind. Can't hear you. What happened? Wait, Georgina's sound.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm still here. You saw my mouth move, but nothing was happening.
Yes.
Riding on the Wind. Let me see. I mean, this continues on in that pace, and it's a highlight for a lot of listeners. And I find that a lot of drummers love the opening of this song. So all this drumming and this instant excitement going on kind of brings this excitement to the table. So, I mean, I love this whole album. I can't say anything negative about any song here. This is just one of like the most classic heavy metal albums of all time. So that's what I have to say about Bloodstone. I
No,
mean,
we're
Riding
talking
on the
about
Wind.
riding on the wind. Okay.
Riding on the Wind. I think I might. I lost my place there.
Okay, Jim, riding on the
Well,
wind.
Georgina kind of said it all. I mean, the drums in this, the drum intro,
Yeah.
anybody who was wanting to be a drummer growing up, this song would definitely, tap them on the shoulder for that. And the guitarist, I mean, this is a fast song with a great chorus, and it's got a perfect spot on the album. This song number 3, after you break into the Hellion that sets it up for Electric Eye, and then you go break into Riding in the Wind. It's just awesome. I mean, again, like what Georgina says, I love every song on this album. And I don't want to give away my rating, but every song on this album is absolute gold. And there's not a negative thing I would even think about saying about any of these songs. I love that song. It's phenomenal.
Um, and I guess the song is probably about driving a motorcycle, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Really fast, I guess. I don't know. I was kind of reading a website on song meanings where people give their interpretation of the song meanings, and most of them are kind of funny because a lot of them they use Rob Halford's sexual, orientation as the reason the song is. Not this one, but there's some other ones, and I'm like, okay, I think you're reaching for that. But anyway, and I'm not going to agree. I'm disagreeing with both of you already. See, it's funny. I remember these albums and I think, okay, I like that song. I'm not saying anything bad about that song. I'm saying something bad about the next song. But anyway, but back then I'm thinking, oh, this is a great album. But then when I get ready for a podcast, I'll listen to it, make some notes. And then it's like, geez, I don't like this as much as I thought I did before. Not that I don't like this album. I'm just saying the song Bloodstone. I think Halford says Bloodstone way too much in this song. When he just keeps saying it, and I just feel it's running on at the end there. But there is great guitar solos in it, which saves the song for me, as I would really not like the song. Jim, what do you think of Bloodstone? Well, I know you like it. You already said you'd like every song, but
Yeah, this is a great song. And I mean, it really shows Rob's vocals on this song. I mean, I like it. I like the fact he sings that says it that many times. And I mean, it starts off so cool. Like, I love the intros to Judas Priest songs. They get right to the point quick, or they send you in a different direction. Like, they start off a little bit slower, and then within a few seconds, it's just takes right off. But I mean, this song is great, and I think how many times do you have any stats on how many times this has been played live?
this has been played 114 times live, which
Okay.
is
I
like, I
figured
don't
not
know,
as much. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
halfway is on the album or whatever.
But no, I like the song. Again, it's another. You're sliding into the fourth track here, and I mean, you're getting on an old album. You're getting to the almost the end of for the first side, and it's already. I mean, this is probably like this is one of the most classic albums of all time. So I mean, this is just another classic for me.
Georgina, you like Bloodstone?
I do. Like I said, I have nothing negative to say here for everything. But the wonderful thing about Bloodstone, right? When you look at the lyrics, the next couple of songs, I really looked at the lyrics of what he was trying to tell us and the message he was conveying to people. And for Bloodstone, I mean, this basically, it's just about spilled blood in the world and violence that's never really justified, and going in this cycle that will probably end the world one day. And this is a really great, solid tune. And I looked at it from a different perspective, not just musically. I just kind of listened to what he had to say. And the message that he's conveying pretty much is kind of never ending, and it can kind of stand till today. There's always like a little message in what he has to tell us. And this song and the next song, Chains, that kind of succeed that. Like, I just love the lyrics on these two songs. I love the lyrics on all these songs, but this one just kind of was a little bit more, it was like a little bit more of a deeper meaning. And I thought that was really neat.
Well, you can keep going talking about Take These Chains. What is it about then to you?
Okay. Chains. Well, Chains offers like this great mix up, but still it's a very hard rock type of tune. And I love the lyrics of this song, and it's catchy, and you've got like this awesome guitar work, and I actually sing along to those lyrics, you know? And a lot of us are singing along to these lyrics. And I think Judas Priest is really well known for these catchy tunes where I'm like, driving in my car and I'm like singing along to his tunes because they're simple, they're effective, and it's catchy. Love the lyrics here too. Yeah.
And Jim,
Totally. This is like a carpool karaoke song. Like, I mean, the earworm that it produces. Georgina's right. I mean, you're singing this song, and if you haven't listened to this album in a while, that one just really puts a smile on your face. It starts off slow. That was one of the ones I was talking about where you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is going to start into like it's going to be a ballad, if you've never heard this album before, and then the guitar riff just speeds up. And I mean, and the melody is amazing, and it creates that earworm that this is definitely one. I mean, Blake, from what I can tell, you're a car guy. You must play this and just go speeding down the road in that souped up vehicle you have.
well, maybe maybe in the 80s I did, yes. Because I don't really think I mean, yeah, I don't think I've listened to this album in quite a while, actually. I mean, I have a few songs on my, I have it on my playlist. So once in a while, songs will pop up or whatever from whatever Judas Priest. Because actually, I'll say it right now. I like the next album better.
Really? Okay.
Defenders of the Faith, right? That's the next one, I think. Yes, I like that one better. But again, I'm not saying I don't like this album. I'm just saying that I like that one better. Anyway, then we have Pain and Pleasure. And this song has been played 0 times live, according to that website. And let's see. Okay, I'll let Jim talk. I was going to say, what do you think the song is about, for one thing? Be careful, there's kids listening.
Yeah. I mean, it's got kind of an interesting lyrical content to it. It can go in many different ways. I was actually just going through about 2 days ago, just preparing for this and reading through it. So, I guess it depends on where your mind is at during this, what you're thinking about it. But I mean, the bluesy sound to it is wicked, and like Rob's voice has got that kind of echoey sound to it. It's a great song, and I mean, I absolutely love it. It's just like every other song on this album, but I mean, the bluesy sound to it really kind of gives, it gives Judas Priest. You're heading into song 6 here, and they're already mixing it up with sort of the presentation of what they're giving you, and I think that's why this album was obviously so popular, because pretty much every song on this definitely could have been released as a single for sure.
And Georgina, do you like Pain and Pleasure, the song?
Somehow I knew you were gonna go. I knew you were going to go there. That's a part of life. That's a part of life. I do love this song, and I find that a lot of people tend to cover this song, believe it or not. When I've gone to cover bands, they tend to actually cover this song, and they learn that guitar solo and they kind of do their thing. Is it a great song? Is it a great, segue to everything else? I mean, it follows in a similar note, but it has like these really great change ups in there for like a midway album. And you've got like these slow and steady grooves in there. Yeah, I like Pain and Pleasure. I do like it.
I knew it.
This is it. This is it. No doubt about it.
Well, as I said, I don't really get into the lyrics that much sometimes, but for doing the podcast, I thought I'd read. So some people were saying it's about a relationship where the sex is really good, but the relationship is really bad. So they stay for the pleasure, even though they're in pain. And then, of course, other people think it's about more adulty things even than that, which I won't get into. But so, yes, it's depends who you are and how you take the song, right? Then we turn the record over in the old days and we go to the title track, Screaming for Vengeance, which I like way better than the last few songs we were just talking about. And these two songs back to back, but we'll just do Screaming for Vengeance first. Georgina, do you like Screaming for Vengeance?
I mean, what do you think my answer is going to be here? Really? I mean, what do you think I am going? What do you think the consensus is here? I mean, this is arguably the best song, at least on the album. At least I think. The vocals here just make you proud to be a metalhead, and from listening to the song, you could tell that Rob is at his peak. He really is. He really is. Love this song. This is one of my favorite songs on this whole album, and it's the title of it. I love it.
And Jim?
Oh yeah, I mean, his vocal range on this and his screams are just, and this really shows off his vocal ability, and it's one of my favorites, if not up there with Electric Eye for me. It's awesome. I mean, it's probably the fastest track on the album, and the drums and bass sound so good. But you know, proud to be a metalhead. I love that quote, and this definitely, you know, Georgina nails it with it. That this is quintessential heavy metal, and what it, you know, this is exactly what it is. I mean, if I was starting a band today, this song would be something I would want to try to, you know, kind of do if I was in that position, because this is definitely just screams metal from the rooftops.
Now they've only played this song 135 times live. I thought they would have did this one more, but for some reason, I don't know why. I guess I didn't want to do two songs back to back from the same album. I don't know. But yeah, it's probably my favorite song on the album too. Of course, You've Got Another Thing Coming, which is next, is the most popular song, as it was the second single, I believe, and it's the fourth song they've played the most live. And it's been it's been played 1,219 times live, wow, according to this website. And I will ask Jim, what do you think of You've Got Another Thing Coming?
It's a great track, and I mean, it's kind of neat because yeah, this was the second single, and this would have been the one that really, I think, in North America, with the video rotation on Much Music and MTV, kind of really shot this album into the stratosphere. I mean, it got a lot of airplay back in the day, and I mean, it's a staple for them. You know, it's got a great chunky sound to it. You know, if it was even a bit slower, you've got some definite doom elements in there. If it was a bit slower, and you know, Rob's vocals were a bit lower in some spots, but I mean, it's a great song. You know, it's definitely, I mean, the whole album's in my top half of the album, I guess I'd say. So it's just another one that I absolutely love. But I mean, you know, even casual fans, you know, you get into this as one of the top 4 or 5 songs that most casual fans even can sing to, and you know, another track that creates that earworm for sure.
And Georgina, do you like You've Got Another Thing Coming?
What do you think? Like, this is kind of like there's a lot of attitude here, guys, in this song, and you know it. And it's kind of like he's telling us, like, he's giving us a way of how to kind of deal with our own personal way of dealing things and issues in life that kind of are challenging us. And it's also a song of hope and rising above issues and like difficulties in life, and how resilient we can be. I look into, like, I interject with these songs, and I think, like, just listening to this song, even to date, like, you could see how it was worthy of every second of airplay, to even today, right? And like Jimmy said, like, you know, MTV, even me as a seasoned listener, I could totally see why this had like a ridiculous amount of heavy MTV rotation back in the day. And I read this little factoid before I came on here about the song itself, where while they never really generated, like, Judas Priest never really generated a top 40 radio hit through their career, You've Got Another Thing Coming was their highest charting hit in the USA, and I believe it hit number 67 from what I read. So kudos This is really it's a little bit of an anthem. Like you get mad, you're like, you got another thing coming. I'm gonna play this thing on 11. Those
And
are
I
my
think they
thoughts.
play it at sporting events a lot too, if I'm not
Oh
mistaken.
yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
saw a quote from Rob Halford that said the lyrics were about what you just kind of said, just this attitude that we've always had in Priest. And he says also that we have in our personal way of dealing with issues that are sent to challenge us.
There you
And
go.
it's also wrapped up in the heavy metal community culture of the way we support each other with our metal.
Okay. Well, like it bonds us, like it kind of bonds us. Like you gotta, all right, I'll take it.
Then we go on to Fever, which for some reason they played 2 times live. I don't know if that's right. Why would you pick 2 concerts to play the song? I don't know. Now it's kind of hard to follow up after Screaming for Vengeance, and you've got another thing coming. But I'm sure you two love this song, so let's go with Georgina.
I'm gonna keep this one simple. I do love the song, and I actually think it's a very highly underrated track. And I think it should get more recognition, or it should have gotten more recognition. I really love this song. I really do. And that's all I could say about it, is that it's just underrated. It hasn't gotten the recognition that it deserves.
And Jim.
Absolutely. I have underrated written here. It's like Georgina's reading my notes, which is great.
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
I mean, it's massively underrated, and it's a great song. And I mean, I love how it starts off, and you're thinking, okay, maybe this is going to be a ballad, and then at like I think just over a minute, it just rips into the guitar and that, and it's such a great song, and it's I think it definitely needs to get more love out there for absolutely. I agree with that.
And I read about this, and yes, it said underrated. So I don't know if you both read the same thing I read or what, but but of course
It
it's
is
underrated
underrated, but you
because,
never hear it. But you never hear it.
Yeah.
It's
well, I
totally.
guess they
I've
only
never
play it
heard
two
this on the
times
radio.
live.
Yeah, I've like never heard anyone play the song like
I guess they
ever.
didn't do any theirself any favors by not playing it either. But
True.
they whatever. But okay, and then the last song, and this is in honor of Georgina's birthday again, because this song is obviously about her. It's called Devil's Child.
You flatter me so. You flatter me.
With the lyrics, "Oh no, got your claws stuck in me." That definitely sounds like Georgina, I think. So
Does it really?
Georgina,
When
do
I'm
you
in a
like?
bad mood, yeah, you definitely don't want to mess with this devil child, no doubt about that, without question. But yeah, the unfortunate thing, yeah, the tail ends have come out, and it says, yeah, right. Eat my diamonds, drink all my gin, feast your eyes. A whole lot of sin. Thanks a lot, pal. I think it's a great song. It is a great song. Obviously, you're talking about some material that other people might like to talk about, or might find it a little, different, so to speak. I don't know how to kind of categorize it without, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't know. You say something and then somebody might take it the other way. And I believe it's like a slept on track, and I enjoy this just as much as I do Fever Fever. Like I said, this whole album is I could go as far as to say that the closing 4 tracks are probably like uh their finest moment, and nothing but brilliance after brilliance, and these perfect, excuse me, closers to an album that is just as good as this one, really.
And Jim, anything to add on that song?
Oh, I mean, Georgina said it all. It's like this half of this. So, back in the old days when you're dealing with sides, this side of this album is just amazing, and probably one of the best, not only one of the best albums, but this is one of the best sides. And I mean, it's a great song. Like Georgina said, the last couple of songs to end it off this way is great. I think it's got a great position on the album. And no, I mean, I whoever the producer laid this out, did such a great job. And I mean, it's definitely a masterpiece in my mind, the whole album.
And Devil's Child is one of my favorite songs on the album. Also,
Yay.
Oh boy.
Yay.
Oh boy. You a devil child too? You're
Well,
a
you didn't
devil
think
child too?
yeah. Well, I didn't mean it's about me. I mean, I like the song. Um, anyway, sorry. I was looking for something else, but so yes, that's the album. So now we're gonna rate it. And I'm thinking I'm gonna hear some double digits here from some people. So Georgina, what would you give it out of 10?
You know what I'm going to give this album. You guys know exactly what I'm going to give this album, right? I'm going to give this album I mean, listen, it's 9.5 on a crappy day, right? So what do you think I'm going to give it, right? And the thing is that the crazy thing about this album, right, is that it's actually a very short album. It's just under, I think, just under 40 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which technically, right, is a perfect length for an album like this. So I mean, it's just a perfect album. I give it a 10.
And Jim,
Yeah.
you're giving it a 10, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I'm giving it a 10. I mean, I like the album length is a big thing, and Georgina hits it on the head here. As I've talked about, like, other albums that are being released in these days, where I find the bands are trying to put so much material on it that they're just kind of throwing it, seeing what they throw against the wall and if it'll stick. This was pure talent, and I like it when bands really get to the point quick. Maybe I have a shorter attention span. I don't know. It's probably from all the years of listening to heavy metal, but I absolutely love this. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me, easy. One of my top albums of all time.
Yeah, this is like Stranded on a Desert Island, Blake.
Yeah,
You get stranded on a desert island.
I'm not taking this on a desert island, I don't think.
Oh my God, okay.
Unless I'm taking 100 albums, maybe then I might, but not if I'm only taking like 5. I'm giving it an 8. I seem to be giving a lot of albums 8s lately. So I'm giving it an 8.
Whoa.
Because actually I like Judas Priest, but I was Iron Maiden guy first. And even though, like we said, they don't really sound similar, so they're different bands, obviously. It's not like thrash bands that might sound similar or whatever. So they're very different, but I don't know. I was just always more of a listening to Maiden than I was Priest. Even though, again, I did like this album. I like the next album and then Painkiller. And what about that? What about other albums? Like have you listened to any of the last 3 or 4? I haven't really, I don't think even listened barely to the last few albums they've released. How about Jim? Have you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got their whole catalog. I also have a couple of box sets. I'm a pretty big fan. I mean, but I'm like that with practically everything, as you know, Blake. I'm just constantly just collecting stuff. But I mean, like Firepower in 2018, they've got a new album coming out apparently. But Firepower I thought was great. Angel of Retribution in 2005, which was Rob's return. Jugulator and Demolition, without Rob, they're okay. But I mean, I like Turbo. A lot of people, it was kind of, they classified more as maybe a little bit more 80s themed, because they kind of changed it up a bit after Defenders to Turbo, but I still like it. I mean, it's, Painkiller's really good. I've seen Judas Priest only live once, and that was actually last year. I think it was on their 50th anniversary tour, and they had Queensryche open for them. And I mean, it was great. It was great.
Oh, Georgina, well, you can talk about them live or talk about their other albums, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of their albums. I have Angel of Retribution. I've got Demolition. I also, obviously, I got Painkiller was another one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Turbo, obviously, that goes without saying. Obviously, the album that we're talking about, Screaming for Vengeance, British Steel. So I have a few in my catalog. I think I listened to Sin After Sin and Stained Class. My brother had that because my brother was, he got me into a lot of heavy metal and rock and roll. early on in the day. And I think it was also he had Sad Wings of Destiny as well.
Great album.
Yeah, it is a great album. I saw them live for the first time as a teenager with my older brother at the time. They had I don't know if you guys remember, you might not or heard of it, the Operation Rock and Roll tour. And this was in the 90s. And it featured, obviously, you got Judas Priest there. There was Alice Cooper as well. Motorhead was on the bill, and Metal Church. And there was another band I just can't remember right now at this time, but I just remember that this was over at the Orange County Fairgrounds. And the tour itself was in honor of the U.S. forces that were involved in Operation Desert Storm at the time during the Gulf War. So there was a lot of meaning behind this whole tour. So that was a great time. I was just a kid, but I thankfully, God bless America, I was fortunate enough to kind of be exposed to all this wonderful music and people and whatnot. So good memories here for me.
I already mentioned the albums a little bit, but I did like British Steel, and I did like the live one, Unleashed in the East, which Green Man Unleashed was on, because my car's green, so like I like that song. And I like Painkiller and Ram It Down. I didn't much like Turbo, but I haven't really the last 3 or 4 or 5. I guess it would be 5 even. I guess I'm getting into Ripper Owens territory too there, but. I mean, I probably listened to them a couple of times, but I just never really got into them, I guess. But, there's a lot more competition for your listening thing now or then than there was back in the 80s, of course. I was going to mention one thing. I like Rob Halford guesting on Ugly Kid Joe's song, Goddamn Devil.
That's right.
I don't know. I listened to that because I like Ugly Kid Joe. And so I like that.
You.
And what else was and live, I was gonna say that. Now I think I only seen Judas Priest once, I think, and I can't remember the year. It was the 80s. I think Helix from Canada opened up for them.
Oh wow.
It's I saw a lot of concerts back in the 80s. But I think that's the only time I've ever seen Judas Priest. But I think I saw Rob Halford solo twice, I think. Once opening up for Iron Maiden. It was Motorhead, Halford, and Iron Maiden. And then I think I saw him with Iron Maiden again, and Entombed, I think, for some reason, was on that bill. So I think I've seen Halford twice and Judas Priest once. So I don't really have much memories of that stuff. And go back to Screaming for Vengeance in a second. Billboard Top 200, it reached number 17. And on Canada's album charts, it also reached number 17. And on the UK, it reached number 11. And that's anything else to add about the album before we get to our top 10 lists?
Oh, God, no. It's just, it was awesome. It's awesome. And
I guess it'll probably be on some of these lists, I think.
You got to raise it to a number 9 there, Blake. Come on.
No, Defenders of the Faith is 9.
Yeah, they're all 9. Okay.
I don't think I would have a 10 Judas Priest. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. I like British Steel a lot too, though. But I haven't listened to that whole album in a while. But anyway, we're going to do our top 10 of 1982. I'm going to go first since if anybody looks at our website, we have a little history tab at the top where I did a feature on the year 1982 where I have my top 10 list in there. But I tweaked it a little to change it up because I was listening to a few of the albums the other day and thought, I'm going to change it. So, and by the way, these are in order. Georgina, I don't know if you put yours in order or not, but anyway.
No, I didn't. I didn't put it in order. I didn't because I love them all equally the same.
Okay. I forgot you mentioned, I was going to mention that to you on a message before about that we put them in order, but that's what you get for not being on an episode in like 27 episodes.
You know what? I'll just ad lib as I go down because there's only 10 of them. So I'll
talk first, then Jim will talk. And while we're talking, you can sort yours in order.
You got it. That's a brilliant plan. You got it. Blake.
Okay. So anyway, my number 10, and I'm starting at 10. My number 10 album was Crocus and Metal Rendezvous.
Oh my
Good
God.
album.
Oh yeah. Wow.
I forgot
Number
about that
nine,
one.
number nine, I got Raven with Wiped Out.
Awesome.
Number eight, I have Led Zeppelin with Coda, even though it wasn't a real studio. I mean, it was a studio album, but it wasn't all new songs. It was retakes or whatever, not remakes of songs, but just songs that they never put on any other albums or whatever. But I'm a big Led Zeppelin fan that people might remember from our Deep Purple thing, where I think I had 3 Led Zeppelins in my top 10 albums. Anyway, number 7. Now, this is where it kind of switched it out. I didn't have this on my list on the 1982 thing because they're not really heavy metal, but I said that it doesn't have to be heavy metal for this. So I have the Headpins from Canada and their album Turn It Loud because it's one of my favorite albums from Canada, hard rock bands. And so that's my number 7. And my top 6 are the same that they are on the website, but if you haven't read it, so number 6 is Twisted Sister with Under the Blade, which is their debut album, I believe. I think they had an EP before that, but this is their first full studio length album back when they were more raw and not just writing for MTV. Number 5, I have this album, Scream for Vengeance, is my number 5. Sorry, it's not higher, whatever. Number 4, I have Manowar with Battle Hymns because I love Manowar. Number 3, I have another Canadian band with Anvil and Metal on Metal. Number 2, I got Venom with Black Metal because I love Venom. And my number 1 album, you could probably guess if you know me, and that is, of course, Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast is my number 1 album from 1982. And that is, yeah, we know that. Okay, Jim, what's your top 10? Oh, wait, sorry. I'll let you two go before. I got one honorable mention if I don't
Go
forget it.
ahead, good. Give me honorable
Well, I want to
mention.
see if it might be on one of your 2 lists, so I'll wait and see.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so Jim,
Well,
go ahead with your top 10 then.
Okay, so I'm just going to start with an honorable mention, and then I have 2. I had to go with 11. So I tied 2. So I kind of cheated a bit. But anyways, my honorable mention is the Merciful Fate EP. I put it as an honorable mention because it's an EP, but
Okay.
the Nuns Have No Fun. Love that album. I had a copy of it back in the day, and then obviously never got a release of it. And I actually picked it up on Amazon a few years ago, and it's an awesome EP. Number 10, I have 2 ties. So my first one is Y&T Black Tiger. Love that album, love Y&T. And then I tied them with Tigers of Pantang, The Cage. And the reason why I tied these 2 together is because one has Tiger in the title and one, the band's name, has Tiger in it. So, it kind of goes together. And but I mean, I kind of would like to have Tigers of Pantang, one of my favorite bands. That album's not one of my favorites, but still an awesome album. Number 9, I got to go with Rainbow, Straight Between the Eyes. Jolene Turner,
Wow.
Stone Cold. I love this album. It was done at the Le Studio in Montreal, in Quebec. So, I mean, that's an awesome album. And I love Rainbow's one of my favorite bands in all eras. Number 8, I go with the Michael Schenker Group, Assault Attack. That's with the vocalist Graham Bonnet. Love that album and love Michael Schenker. It's awesome. Number 7, Blake. A little bit earlier, yours. I went with Twisted Sister, Under the Blade. Shoot 'Em Down, amazing song, Under the Blade. Bad Boys of Rock and Roll. This was an awesome album, and I mean, I like it better than Stay Hungry, even though I do like Stay Hungry. But that first album's phenomenal. Number 6, I'm gonna go with Accept, Restless and Wild. Awesome album. Princess of the Dawn, Fast as a Shark, Wicked. Number 5, same, Venom, Black Metal. I mean, that's their second album. Countess Bathory, amazing song, and I love Venom. Number 4, I'm going to go with Motorhead, Iron Fist. Awesome album. Love Motorhead. Number 3, one of my top 3 or 4 bands of all times, which is the Scorpions. Got to go with Blackout. I mean, No One Like You. The song Arizona is one of my favorite Scorpion songs. Probably my second favorite Scorpion album of all time. And then it was a real battle between 2 and 1, but I put Screaming for Vengeance in number 2 only because I went with the Number of the Beast. Iron Maiden is number 1. And like you, Blake, I love these 2 bands equally, but it's just Iron Maiden a little bit more. This album was just equally, maybe next week I'd switch them around. I don't know, but that's my top 11, I guess.
And actually, on my 1982 page, I had 11 on that one. and I did have Accept on that list. I just took them off this list just because I wanted to include the head pins. Anyway, Georgina, did you do your homework while we were talking?
I did, and I think I'm going to surprise you guys because
Awesome.
I'm going to surprise you because I really mixed it up. Like I was a really young snot-nosed kid when all these albums came out, and I was I was in between rock and roll, like hard rock, and heavy metal. Like because that was the era, right? That's all we had to listen to. So I graduated from rock and roll and I went into hard rock and then I went into metal. That's how I kind of evolved into this genre. And they all kind of bleed into one. They all kind of shake hands with each other and they're in bed with each other and they all get along. So that's the beauty of it. So I think you guys are going to be very surprised because I totally went against what all you guys did. So I'll begin with 10, right?
Yes.
White Snake, Saints and Sinners. Right?
Yes.
I went there. Nice. Right?
I like White
9.
Snake.
I love White Snake.
Album.
But you guys didn't put it on your list though as a top 10, right? But I was all women love White Snake. We love White Snake. Anything to do with White Snake, we just love it.
Well, if it was the year of Slide It In, it might have made it on my list because I really like that album.
Oh boy, right. That's a really good album too. You're right. That's a good one too.
Go ahead. Sorry.
9, because I loved Kiss. I loved the concept of Kiss and makeup and performing, and I've got a ton of like Kiss albums. Creatures of the Night made my list as number 9. Number 8, I'll go with you guys. You also mentioned Twisted Sister, Under the Table.
Blade.
Under the Blade, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else in my mind there, but exactly, Under the Blade. I just love that album. 7, you guys are going to be surprised with this one. I went with Al Denova, self-titled.
Oh no, wicked album.
Al Denova, yeah. It's a great album, but you guys didn't talk about it. So I said, you know what? This is going to make my top 10. Number 6 is going to shock you even more. And I said to myself, I go, if I was ever to leave this planet, there are a few musicians that I would love to meet. And this individual is the top one that I would love to meet. And it's Pete Townsend. And Pete Townsend came out with Chinese Eyes during this year. I'm a big Pete Townsend fan. I listened to The Who as a very, very young girl, and I just love The Who. I love their theatrics at the time, but Pete Townsend is a genius. And I loved Chinese Eyes. And this is one of my like go-to albums, like for the Desert Island, along with Empty Glass, which I just love that album. Like definitely worthy of more recognition, but I just love Pete Townsend. So that would be my number 6. Number 5 is Scorpions, Blackout. Right? Yeah, definitely. You knew that this was going to make my list. This is just kind of an epic album. Number 4 for me was Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. Sorry, Blake. I didn't make number 1 for me. It didn't make number 1, but it did make number 4. And
that's okay.
It's like groundbreaking. Number 3 is, again, this was a big band for me when I was young, trying to find my way within these genres. Like I said, it was rock and roll, hard rock, and heavy metal, and they all kind of intermingled within each other. Rush Signals. I was a huge Rush fan, and my brother was a drummer, and I had seen many Rush concerts live over the years, but I would say Rush Signals would be number 3. Number 2, and this is one of my favorite bands of all time. It's not a metal band. It's Van Halen. I love Van Halen, Diver Down. I love anything that they have done. Like literally, like Van Halen is a staple, and there's so many great memories attached to Van Halen. And I was fortunate enough to actually see Van Halen live before he died, which was really something on my bucket list, because I was like, I want to see Van Halen live. I never got a chance to see, David Lee Roth in Vegas. So this was something, because it was a part of my upbringing and just growing up. Huge. Van Halen was like huge. And even today, when I listen to Van Halen, I'll be dancing in the streets. I'll be just it just takes me back to those days, and just really, really a very, very important band in rock and roll history. And number one is obviously the album that we were talking about today, is Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest. So that's my top 10 list. And thank you for giving me some time to kind of, put it in order.
That's good. I would consider Van Halen heavy metal. It's just, they're at the roots of heavy metal, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I would. I mean, it's hard to categorize what. I mean, they'd be hair metal. If hair metal was already out, then they probably would have been lumped into that just because of David Lee Roth or whatever.
Anybody want to do a podcast with me on Van Halen? I'll do it in a drop of a hat.
I'm sure somebody will do a Van Halen podcast. But see, I don't really like. See, I didn't really like that album too much. Like, I really like the first one, the first two, Women and Children First. I really like that one, but I didn't like this. That's why it didn't make my list, just because I didn't like that album as much as their older ones or whatever. Right, and I never saw Van Halen live. I did see David Lee Roth live twice, so
I'm jealous.
Of course, that would be with Steve Vai, not of course.
Yes. Wow. Right.
And anyway, my one honorable mention was not necessarily that it should fit in the top 10, but Girl Schools had their debut album in 1982, and since they're like probably the first real female heavy metal band, I thought they're an honorable mention to mention that, because I did that also on my 1982 page that I wrote. And one thing to mention about a band, you're talking about desert island, and so if we were on a desert island and we were getting off the island to go back to safety, if I saw your Kiss albums, I'd probably bury them in the sand so they didn't come back with us. But that's just me. That's okay.
All right. Even Dress to Kill was a good album.
And on our top 70 albums there, I think my top 10 was the Kiss debut album. I mean, I love Kiss, and Creatures I battled with, but it was on there, and then it just kind of flowed off just with what I was going through. So, but I mean, Kiss, I love Kiss. Blake, you're not a Kiss fan, are you?
No, I don't like Kiss. I have one Kiss album, and it's Lick It Up, or is that what it's called? No, what's it called? Is it called Lick It Up?
Yeah.
When they took their makeup off, I thought, okay, now I can listen to Kiss. But so that album's okay, and the song I Love It Loud. There's a few songs. I think my older brother had Love Gun, so I used to listen to that a bit.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
that's awesome.
They have their song called Beth, and my mom's name is Beth, or whatever. But yeah, I just never got into Kiss. It was probably more Gene Simmons. When I got to know who Gene Simmons was, is how I began to not like Kiss, because of him, because of his attitude and how they're making toilet paper to sell money and whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I guess that's our episode. I will say the next podcast episode is going to be about a group from New York, actually. Sabotage. They're from New York, right? Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be doing Streets, the rock opera album that they had. So that will be awesome. With Eric and Billy. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. I hope you had fun.
Always.
Awesome.
Thank you, Blake. Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Oh, it was awesome. Nice meeting you, Georgina. That was awesome.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay.
And thanks for the birthday song, guys. Thanks for the birthday wishes. You're the best.
Okay,
You
go
guys
get
are the
drunk
best.
now. It's your birthday. Go
I
get
will
drunk.
absolutely.
Okay. Thanks everybody for listening. Goodbye.